Welcome viewers to the channel. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. We're launching from a different part of the bay today. Let's just make sure we get in all right. We are filming. We're away. Okay, welcome viewers with Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Well, my update on my breakup. It's been a journey. It was a breakup as usual, which I didn't want to have. It had nothing to do with running off with anybody else or anything like that. It was a situation of circumstance. Things weren't improving. It seemed to me like the person I was with was defaulting back into some kind of lifestyle that they had before I come along, which I didn't agree with. Didn't seem healthy to me. We were at the point in the relationship where a transition was taking place from the beginning of the relationship to a settling point, come to a settling point. Now this can be challenging for certain people, because some people need an element of doubt to keep things exciting for themselves. That element wasn't in our relationship at this point. We'd become familiar with one another. We knew each other well enough to know that things would be okay if we chose for them to be. But things weren't okay. There were some issues that weren't being resolved. And this wasn't primarily her fault. This was the attitude and aptitude, character and personality of her family member or members. I don't know. I wasn't a fly on the wall. All I know is that we're a peaceful family, always accepting, always playing our part, limited part. It was limited because she limited it. You couldn't really play a full part, full healthy part. And that was okay. That was the way she wanted it. But it did become a bit monotonous solely because there was no freestyle about it. It was very robotic. There wasn't much spirit in it at the end, given the unresolved. And there was also an underlying tension that was building due to the unresolved. And these elements eroded away at the happiness in the relationship. It became, as I said, very robotic, very IA or AI type. unemotional. There wasn't much talk. She definitely didn't have much to say. I'd started this new channel, which was talking a fair bit about female nature and stuff, which I guess freaked her out. You'll see a lot of these people don't like they don't like too much integrity, because if they've got weaknesses or things that they haven't resolved, these things will be exposed. Integrity and morality's got a way of bringing these things to light. And you'll find some people that you're with, the less they say or the less you say, the safer they feel, because they don't have to deal with anything. It's too much effort to really get down to the meat and potatoes and become what God has planned for you to become. Some people are quite happy to stay where the devil has them. They're quite comfortable with that, in the shadows and in the darkness of sin. They're comfortable with that. It suits their mentality and mindset. A lot of these people, what you've got to realize is they're very superficial. They'll be one thing on the surface, but it's a whole different story underneath. And unfortunately, this is where the rubber hits the road. Integrity's got a way of challenging darkness and wanting things to come into the light. And good morning, viewers. This is Gosford on the Central Coast, New South Wales, where they've got the national ski race qualifications on this morning. So we've taken a different route, different point of entry, and we'll manage things from there. Beautiful morning. Lots of wildlife around this morning. Plenty of birds for you to look at. Beautiful sunrise. Look at this bird on that rock there. There he goes. He's a funny old fella, that one. I'll just check my equipment. Equipment seems to be clear and working. Yeah. This is where you should take time. You should really take time when you meet someone. I believe, when the dust settles a bit, they always seem to resurface. I had a long conversation last night with the lady I used to call the nun. She seems to be going okay within herself. How are you, mate? Loving it? Yeah. Good to see you out. We were engaged and she didn't want to go through with the marriage, so I left that there where it was. I let that go, and we still talk. I still talk to all my exes, actually. Not so much the South African woman, because she stole and she was a thief. I didn't like that. Beautiful morning. This is the life. Yeah, we're living the life here in Australia, on the east coast of Australia. I've lived in this valley now for 50 years. I've been out in this water 50 years. And I'm proud of it. I've never really needed to travel the world. As you can see, I've had the best fishing. Oh look, I've had a great life here. But getting back to the subject, the nun, they do end up on their own. It's very hard for them to re-establish themselves with somebody else a lot of the time, because the reason being is that men don't look after themselves the way that they should. Men are quite disappointing, to be honest. But I think it's equally fair to say so are a lot of women. It can be very disappointing. And this seems to be the state of affairs now. People just don't seem to want to take pride in themselves, and they don't care if they win, lose, or otherwise. And that astonishes me. I can't for the life of me comprehend why someone would want to have a relationship and have it fail. That's narcissistic, isn't it? Narcissism is usually a love bomb phase. The journey of the relationship is one of which the narcissist micro-incrementally demises the relationship. Right up until discard, love bomb, devalue, discard. And that might suggest that there's more narcissists out there than what we realise. This can leave people with PTSD or other mind traumas. It's definitely not a very nice state of affairs to find yourself in. But that's part of life, isn't it? And I guess we have to be aware of the principalities and powers of darkness. Some people just get through life with one partner, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's absolutely amazing. Others get smashed along the way. Just because a relationship ends too, and it's not what we particularly wanted, doesn't automatically mean that the other person is a narcissist either. I never really looked into narcissism before this. You'd hear people complaining about narcissist this, narcissist that, and I never really understood what it meant until the last two relationships that I've had, where there really hasn't been a fair explanation for the behaviour that was experienced. Both victim mentality types, both able to chameleonize to situations that suited. The second, or the last one, was or had a lot of sides to it, but just did not know what to do with a healthy male. Never had one before. And this did resonate through the relationship. There was a constant battle to try and make sense of it or keep sense of it. But let's get down to point. We'll let this train go past. There's a lot of female and male players out there today. They approach it with that mentality and mindset. They expect to be played. They don't expect anyone to come along that's really going to be of much value. This is reflected in the way in which they apply themselves within the relationship. A lot more women now are players themselves, are very careless in their sexuality. They don't seem to care about what the consequences of that are going to be for them. And this is leaving quite a trail of confusion behind in the male sector. Quite a lot of damage. A lot of males don't realise how wicked women are until they're on the end of it. Particular women are. There are fantastic women out there. But you have to rate someone on their overall performance. And the last couple I've had have been, the last half a dozen actually, have been absolutely atrocious. Atrocious. Just damaged. Damaged beyond comprehension. And if you're not savvy to this, mate, it can really make you wonder. There's a lot of blokes that run around doing damage as well, damaging these people. Some of these people could have dozens of people before you come along. You're just another number. But you've got to rate these people on their performance. Too often we grandiose people, and we've got no right to do that. It's really not our right to do that. We overdevote ourselves too soon. We let our loyalty and faithfulness blind us to what the reality of the relationship might be. And we just do not give time enough to getting to know people. Sex seems to be the centre piece of it all. People don't realise the damage that that's doing to themselves psychologically and in other ways. As a matter of fact, they don't seem to care actually. But it's doing tremendous damage psychologically to these people. The mind damage and the spiritual damage, that's broken spirit. Who can bear, the Bible says. And let me say, just because you don't feel like your spirit's broken doesn't mean it isn't. Just because you don't feel like your spirit's broken doesn't mean it isn't. Okay? A broken spirit, who can bear? Now, a lot of people will compensate their damage and whatever else is going on with drugs, alcohol, and other substances. They don't evaluate their experience or the journey of their relationship with fairness or maturity. And I always wish there was psychological data if you meet somebody, they've got a hand in their psychological data. You'll never get the real report from a lot of these people about themselves. You'll get a version that suits their circumstance with the individual person that they're with. Could be a dope addict meet cocaine addict. Next thing, the dope addict's on the cocaine, they got rotten teeth and the roof of their mouth's deformed, and that suits them because now, say if they got financial stress and it's a female, the male will bring the cocaine to get the pussy. That's how desperate these people are. And they don't usually work out. It usually ends up in some kind of vicious ending. The male will feel used. A lot of these females won't make commitment. A lot of these males don't want commitment, but some do. Some become very possessive. And this is where a lot of the violence comes in, domestic violence or relationship violence. Mixed messages. Women get bashed, killed, raped, abused at least. And there's really, at the end of the day, no excuse for it. It's their own negligence. Drugs play a major part in violence towards women, but let's be honest, a lot of these women use them and they lose touch with how they're behaving and how they're treating men. Some men just don't want to be used by women. And the man will feel rejected or some way mistreated and will assault the woman. This is the selfishness on both parts. Hope you're enjoying the view today, viewers, here at Gosford, Central Coast, New South Wales. We need to bring to light to the interference of family members in relationships and the deliberate partners ignoring this and leaving the partner subject to the abuse of the family member, be it kid, sister, siblings, who knows, mother, father. It's rampant. But we also need to make an awareness of the fact that some of these people use that to their advantage as well, as a shield, as a way of escape from a relationship. Some people just are out to have their needs met and then move on. Some people just want the thrill of somebody different. Just the flesh, just the piece of meat. And everybody gets devalued. Don't go on the dating sites unless you're a predator yourself. Most of the people now are irresponsible and unaccountable. They're the big attributes today: irresponsibility and lack of accountability. So you'll get with someone and they'll put it on. They'll be sucking dick, there'll be all sorts of pussy licking, and I know that sounds rude, but it's all going on. Drug fueled. Right. The next day, nobody wants to know no one. And women are doing this in front of their children, as though it's an example. They think children don't notice or don't consider these things. Adult children that are living at home, that shouldn't be living at home, should have left home years ago, but were disenabled, usually by the supply of drugs or alcohol. That'll keep them hanging around. That keeps the parents with a sense of security, that they won't be abandoned, the single parent. Sometimes these people will sleep in bed with the mother. I can't tell you what goes on beyond that because I haven't been around for that, but I know for a fact that a lot of these young adults will go to bed with their mother, and the mother won't mind it. You'll see them touching and grooming each other in the kitchen. This is the overt emotional incest, narcissistic incest, emotional incest manifesting itself. They'll call each other names that are of the sexy nature. There goes a freight train. Or of romantic nature. They'll rub up against each other. The son will come up behind the mother and put his arms around her and spoon her, as it were. Smell around her neck, kiss around her neck. She'll tell the son how proud of him she is. Most of them are just drug addicts, is about as far as they've got. She'll fill up his cigarettes, dope, alcohol supply, feed them, wife them, just completely disable them. Completely, not partly, completely. And then have sex with an outsider. They're emotionally attached to the family member in a way in which they should be emotionally attached to a romantic partner. And it's abuse. It's emotional abuse. They whinge about people. They've got this weird form of sarcasm that's not funny. It's just a way of emotionally bonding in a lustful way. They whinge about their partners all the time. Yet they'll go back to the partner for sex because that's all they want the partner for. They're victims, which is a self-prophesying spiritual way of them being prepared for if they get dumped, which a lot of them do. They get dumped by the partner. This then plays into their victim mentality. So they can go and receive their reward from the other family members and their sympathies and condolences. But to them it's actually a victory for them because they've just got the family member back, the supplies back in place, the stranger's gone, nothing can be exposed. These people do not like being brought to the light. They just don't like being brought to the light. Most things are better left unsaid. There's never any resolve. The only resolve is relative to the infantile mentalities of the adult children, where the parents are usually servitude to that. As I've said before, I've watched these single mothers bow to these dysfunctional adult males in a form of worship and devotion that's second to none. It's sickening. They've grandioused these people so heavily for so many years that they've enthroned them in their mind, and they're the most deplorable characters around. They don't like men. Oh no. I've been banned from houses just by my presence. They're lazy, they're gluttons, they're selfish. They work, but doesn't ever get them anywhere. It's just a waste of time. They waste their money, tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, nothing to show for it except rotten teeth, sicknesses, addictions, and other ailments that are going to cost the community later in life. They say money's not important, but their lives are devoted to work to get money for the rent and the drugs and the food. They can't save, they're in debt. They don't want the answers. They like being ignorant because, again, that plays into their victim mentality, even though they're absolutely not ignorant. They're as cunning as you can get. They're manipulative, controlling. They love passive-aggressive behaviour. They'll punish you incredibly passive-aggressively. Once they've established a relationship, they'll begin to deteriorate and try and condition you to a minimalist style of relationship. Less is more when it's not. They'll confuse you with their negligence, and this will entrain your mind and cause your mind to become highly bonded to the relationship, trying to figure out how it can be better and what you can do to make it better. When you chastise them, at first they'll say, oh sorry, I'm sorry, and this will become a monotony. So you'll try and train yourself to not say anything at all. You start deceiving yourself, going against your own conscience. You start to question yourself, because what the person's saying and what the person's doing are absolutely not lining up at all. They'll come and visit you, they'll get high quality company, food, sex, and masculinity or femininity, and listening and attention, and you'll ring them up after they've left, say in the middle of the day, to see how they're going. And if they answer the phone, that's an if, they'll be stoned or pissed and have undone all the effort that you've made to contribute to their life. This isn't uncommon. And when you challenge it, it doesn't really matter. It goes in one ear and out the other. They've got what they've wanted. At this point, they're winging it. At this point, they know they're playing on your tolerance. You're not the first rodeo. And they're going to fake it till they make it. And if they don't make it, that's too bad. Too bad for them, and too bad for you. And that's just how it is. That's how these people roll. Your time will be wasted. Your assets will be wasted. Your emotional input will be wasted. Your effort will be wasted. And they'll go back to their default of alcohol, drugs, nicotine, coke, methamphetamine, and the biggest one of all, their emotional incest. When they realise you've just about had enough, they're already speaking to other people. They've been whinging about you behind your back anyway. When you're gone, they begin to groom somebody new. By cause and effect, they've learnt nothing. They've become nothing. They've shown no value for themselves or anybody else. And they end up where they are, which is with nothing. They're just an object to the carnal nature. And look at these little sparrows, viewers, on the wharf. Isn't that wonderful? Look. Beautiful. Better concentrate here. And you'll need to go away and mend. This is the typical pattern of behaviour. You'll be traumatised. You'll be wondering why you listened. You won't fully understand what's happened, but it has happened. And that's all there is to it. You've been duped. You're not the first rodeo. You won't be the last. As I said, they've met somebody else before you're gone. They're ready to transition. They've held resentment against you because you've raised the emotional incest aspect of the situation. They don't like that. Let's see if we can get this out. Yep. There we go. You're now an enemy. Your services are just about at their used by date. At this point, they're transitioning onto somebody else. There's no explanation. There's no sorry about that. Covert emotional incest has no sympathy for anything or anyone, let alone itself, because they're abusing each other as it is. Before you start, they're already in abuse. And you'll end up needing therapy from that abuse, because of the abuse. And that's just how it works. And they'll do it all again. They make their way in, and they use the family as a way out. That's how they do it. While you're willing to put up with them, they'll play along. As soon as you're not willing to put up with them, they know it's coming to an end. And it's at that point that they begin to look for somebody else. And they look until they find somebody else. And they do. And they do it quick. As I said, a lot of the people, these people, have somebody else before you're gone. Before you're even gone. So, this is what you're up against. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. I would suggest that if you find yourself in this situation, you immediately come to terms with the reality of the fact that you've been just a source of supply, that the I love yous were only relative to conveniencing the dysfunction, and the fact that that will never change. It's not going to change. And that's all there is to it. They'll have no excuses. They won't want to talk about it. They'll accept the breakup. Time to move on, being exposed. Not their first rodeo, remember, viewers. And you will need to find a way to heal from the betrayal, from the demoralizing attitude, from the demasculination attempt or defeminization attempt, from the intrusion of the family members, trauma associated with that. Flying monkeys, just tell them to fuck off. Sorry for swearing, but you just have to be flat and blatant about that. Once the person realizes that they've ruined something good, they probably will try and hoover you. But anybody with a bit of brains knows that you don't entertain the hoover. You immediately, by this time, you should have disconnected, at least via phone and other sources of communication, from this person. And you have to come back to yourself. You have to realize that you need to be back to yourself to restore. They ain't going on to anything better. In fact, it's going to get worse for them. They've had the golden egg and didn't know what to do with it. This isn't uncommon. These people have no idea of good things that come their way. They just don't know how to respect themselves, so they're not going to respect things that do have integrity, responsibility and accountability associated with them. They are used to losing. They know they're going to lose in the future. They have nothing to show for themselves. They will have nothing to show for themselves. They become sick, ill, maladaptive, angry, bitter, hateful, conceited. They're reprobates, careless, reckless, promiscuous. They've left no example for their children. They've got no example for them except the grandiose mindset that they've put upon them in deceiving them into thinking that there's something that they're not, just by way of the way they have been born. They end up estranged from their children, a lot of these people, later in life, as the children realise they've been duped, the same way they've watched the partners of these people be duped. They were duped as well. They all dupe each other. They all fool each other. They all end up with nothing. And they realise that the grandiosity is just a big fantasy. And as Ozzy Osbourne sings in his song, The Road to Nowhere, they realise the road to nowhere leads to me. They look in the mirror and say to themselves, oh my goodness, the road to nowhere leads to me. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.